community. This is a community show that bring on community events, bring on community conversations. I'm at the historical Langston Dwellings, the second oldest housing complex in Washington, D.C., in the United States, the first housing complex in Washington, D.C. And we're here with Brother Charles Epps, Henry Epps. He preferred to be Charles Henry, yes. But we're here because he is one of the former presidents, principals of Garnett Patterson. And if y'all know anything about Garnett Patterson, you had to be a heck of a man to be the principal of Garnett Patterson. So we're here, not because I just want to just talk to him. I want to talk to him because I want to get some information from him. Because I want to get the information because we know that you used to be a principal in the day, kids at the school today is different from the kids of yesterday or when I was going to school. But one of the things that I just wanted to share, I just want to understand how and why did you become, was it always your dream or your reality to become that? But I also want to know what type of person that you was before you became that. And why is it so important that we make a difference in our youth today here in Washington, D.C., because you know the different things that's going on. So I just want to just turn some more to you to share with us a little bit about who is Charles Henry.
My name is Charles Henry Epps. I want to thank you for having me here. I get extremely excited whenever I'm in the place where little people, young folks, have opportunity to be taught something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been getting excited about education ever since I can recall as a child growing up in a little small town, Windsor, North Carolina, which had about 2,500 to 3,000 people strong. I always got excited and always felt that there was some liberating qualities about education. So I always tried to be a very good student and always tried to please my parents. But I graduated from Windsor, North Carolina, W.S. Etheridge, and went to Hampton at that time.
Oh, Hampton, BCU?
Yes.
Okay.
Hampton was Hampton Institute at the time when I went there.
Okay.
Now it's Hampton University.
Yes, yes.
And after graduating from Hampton, I came here to teach. I got an offer to come to D.C. to teach here in Washington, D.C., and began my teaching career at Garnett Patterson Junior High School. It was 7, 8, 9 at that time. It wasn't middle school, it was junior high.
Right, right.
And so I was.
So let me ask you something while you say that. You said you had got an offer from college to come here. So how was when you was in like junior high school, and what made that transition from high school or middle school where you was able to enter to college, into the degree of education?
If you're talking about when I was a student, when I was in school, it was just one big complex. It was W.S. Etheridge High School. Went from grades 1 through 12. There was no kindergarten, no pre-K, anything.
Something like what they got now in the charter schools. Some of the charter schools.
Well, even some of the charter schools have preschool, they have pre-K, and then they go into kindergarten because they go there as young as 3, as long as they turn 4 by a certain date during that same school year. But there was no such thing when I was growing up. First grade, and I recall my very first day of school. My mother's brother, they called him Hamburger, his name was Melvin Gillum. He said, "Charles, if you don't cry, I'm gonna give you 5 cents." And so he counted out me what he had in his pocket. And what he had in his pocket was 4 cents. He had 4 pennies. That's all he had. And I wasn't gonna cry. I was very excited to be there. And I knew there was a place where I could just learn something, which I did. You went from grades 1 through grades 8. And then you started high school grade 9. Okay. And there was a graduation from the 8th grade. And I recall prior to graduation, near the end of the 8th grade year, there were 2 8th grade classes. And allegedly, my grade point average and the young lady who was in the other 8th grade class were the same. So we were told that they gave us a written speech, and whoever learned it first would be the valedictorian.
Mm.
The next day, when I came back to school, I knew the speech, but the young lady did not know it. Now, I'm not saying she didn't know it. She didn't come to school the next day.
Okay.
I'm not. She was a
And what grade you was in there during that time?
8th grade.
8th grade. Okay.
8th grade. She was extremely smart young lady. And a matter of fact, I attended her funeral about a couple of years ago in Newark, New
okay.
Jersey. Extremely smart. But anyway, she didn't come to school the next day. But the following day she did. She knew the speech, and she was the valedictorian.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so my teacher, Miss Leslie Perry, said to me, Charles, you know, they might have changed the ground rules on you, but she said, whatever you know, they can never take from you. They can take some things, but what you know, they can't take from you.
So did you get discouraged? Did you get discouraged when, even though you did what you had to do, but the next day the lady came and did what she had to do, and you wasn't able to receive? Now I understand the message that she gave, but how did you feel?
I felt sad.
Okay.
I felt sad, and fast forward, when I became a school administrator, one of the things I told the teachers, listen, you can be firm, but you have to be fair. You just can't be unfair to these kids.
Right, right.
And I still felt that. And that was
You still feel that way today?
I feel that right today.
Okay, cool.
And everywhere I ever been, that was one of the things that always sort of guided what I felt and how I performed. You can be firm and fair. You know, you can be firm, but you just need to be fair. And you definitely cannot be a fake.
Right,
Because
right.
these kids can sniff out a fake.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't discouraged because the teacher, Miss Leslie Perry, my teacher, she talked with me about it. And
She
that-
motivated you.
She did, and it was a life lesson.
Yeah.
That was a life lesson.
Right.
A lesson that I carry with me today.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why.
And how many years you been carrying that message?
From that day.
Yeah, but I mean like 20 years, 30 years,
Well,
40
well,
years,
that
50
was,
years?
let's see, if I graduated in 1958, so that was around 1954.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 46, 56, 66, 66, 69, almost 70 years.
Yeah.
I've been carrying that with me.
Yeah, because I was born in 57.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was about around that same time. Around that same time. And that has always been a message. And no, what I said that I was going to do for the high school, grades 9, 10, 11, 12, I was going to work to become the valedictorian. See, I had 4 years to prove it. But I ended up with about a 98-point-some average. And the difference between what the other person, the valedictorian, had, you know, was like I got an A minus in a class, and she got a straight A, and that was the difference. But I've never been discouraged at any point
Right,
in my life.
Right, right.
And so
that's something that we all need to really look forward, not being discouraged, and not be just because you might have been turned down. That don't mean that's the end. It's just really just the beginning of how do you master that feeling.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
you know that's sort of like in keeping with what just a little saying that people say a lot now. If you get knocked down, you just got to get up.
Yeah.
See, but if you stay down and take that 10 count
Yeah.
and don't get back up and just say the heck with it, you know, that's what some folks will want you to do.
Right,
You know,
right.
but if you get knocked down, get back up, and that's it. So don't be discouraged, be encouraged.
So did you grow up in segregation or things of that nature back down in the South? And how did you see the change in today from yesterday? And basically what I'm saying is that a lot of time it's things motivate us to be where we are today, to be as great as all we are today because of some things that we've seen coming up, the more sort of what people see today. How did you able to transition? Like you said, you went to college, you went to Hampton. But did you have any of these things that was going on in life that we presently see today that's kind of creeping back on the scene today?
Well, I was born in 1940.
Right, right.
See, I was born in 1940, so in Windsor, North Carolina. So everything was segregated. Even the courthouse, they had the colored section, white section, the bus station, colored, white, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So I knew all about segregation. Matter of fact, the movie theater was segregated. We had all the color folks sat upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I use the word color
Right,
because that's
I
what
got you.
that was the word
What
that
was
was
the
being
word?
used then.
That was white in color.
And the upstairs was often referred to as the crow's nest.
Oh, okay. That's new to me.
The crow's nest.
Yes.
All right. And so I knew about that. The schools, of course, were segregated. I never had a new textbook the entire 12 years that I attended W.S. Etheridge. We used to get bundled. Books would come to W.S. Etheridge bundled up from the white school, tied up with something.
Transferable down to y'all. Y'all got you.
And in the front of the book, there was a place where you had to sign your name or print your name. And after all of those spaces were completed, there were no other spaces to write your name, they would bung them up and they would send them to us. But 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. I don't care how old the book is
Right.
or who was written by. 2 plus 4, 2 plus 2 is going to always equal 4. So, you know, prior to 1940, when I was born, you know, folks did a lot of teaching under trees and near a riverbank or in a cotton field. And so I've never been discouraged.
That's what I'm talking
You know, I
about.
can't get discouraged.
Yeah.
That's what folks want you to do.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. I like what you just said. Under the tree, under the cotton field. That means you were getting taught and getting teaching from wherever you was during that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I was in the 12th grade, this teacher, business teacher, Mr. Jimmy Gilden, his family owned the funeral home, Gilden's Funeral Home there in Windsor, North Carolina. He said to me, Charles, they are giving a test in another town, you know, Edenton, North Carolina, which is about 22 miles from Windsor. He said, if you go over there and take that test, and depending on how you do, they might give you some money to go to college. And so I got on the bus that particular day of the test. We didn't have a car.
Right.
We didn't have a family car until I was almost out of college. We didn't have
I mean, you was 20-some years old or something like that?
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And when my mother bought the car, she said, Charles Henry, I'm buying this car because I'm tired of asking folks to take me to Hampton to see you. So she got her driver's license at the age of 54.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. And so took the test, I caught the bus, I went over, took the test, and I scored well enough so that Hampton did give me some money to attend. And so that's how I got started attending Hampton
Institute.
Hampton Institute.
During the time when you was there, then now it's called Hampton University.
And then, you know, then there's a big thing between Hampton about who is the real HU.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I heard on TV last night, I believe, was either last night or this morning about that program, that program, that Hillsman College thing. You know, it was a TV show, and they say it was the setting was a HBCU in Virginia, but the person who produced it, who was the producer of that particular show, was a Howard graduate, and so that didn't answer any questions about how that show was it talking about Hampton or was it talking about Howard? But it was talking about one of the two.
Oh, well, they just talking about HBCU, period.
And exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
So as you, like you said, you end up getting a teaching job here in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And what are the first places that you entered the teaching job at?
Garnett Patterson.
Garnett Patterson. Okay,
Right.
cool.
I was working in Atlantic City every summer.
I grew up in Atlantic City.
I was working there every summer
That's my hometown, basically.
Hollis Restaurant on the boardwalk.
Yes.
Right by the Traymore Hotel.
Yeah.
Right on the boardwalk. And I worked there every summer.
I grew up in Bacharach Boulevard, right where the train station was at during that time.
Baccarat Boulevard
And the
was
bus
where
station.
there was a little place back there. My second summer,
Yeah.
the summer of '59, there was a little venue back there where some of the black people would perform, and I heard that Ray Charles was going to perform back there. So I managed to find my way back there, and Mom's Maybe was the opening act.
Yeah, they told me she was there. Used to come there all the time.
Absolutely, back there,
Yeah,
Baccarat Boulevard.
Yeah.
But anyway, I worked in Lancaster City every summer, and just before it was time for me to report to D.C. to start working at the end of the summer, they said, before the school begins, meet your principal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I caught a bus, not back to North Carolina, but I caught a bus to Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got off at the bus station there, downtown.
What's up, New York Avenue?
That's
Back
right.
13th New York Avenue.
Absolutely.
That's old school, in case those don't remember that.
Yes, exactly. So I saw a young lady. I said, I'm trying to find Garnett Patterson at 10th and U Street,
Yeah.
Northwest. She said, well, if you get on this bus, this 11th Street bus, and you go straight up there and get off on U, and you look to the right, Lee's Flores is going to be on the corner. But if you sort of look over there, you're going to see like a little wall, and that's going to be Garnett Patterson.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, and I went in there, and I met the principal, George Campbell, Mr. Campbell, George Campbell. And he looked at me, he said, because I had clean hair.
Oh, yeah,
cut,
you was sharp. I know you was sharp.
And so he said,
well grown.
he said, Mr. Epps, do you think you're going to be able to make it? And I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I had no idea what he was talking about.
Yeah, you was going into a whole different adventure of understanding.
I came from Western North Carolina, W.S. Etheridge, where I never heard a teacher tell a kid they had to sit down or be quiet.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And when I went to Hampton, and I did student teaching at two of the schools in the local schools for doing my student teaching, it was the same atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he asked me if I thought I could make it, trying to figure out what is he talking about,
Right.
But anyway, the first day those kids showed up, I knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my first year there, I was a floating teacher. I didn't have my own classroom.
Your first year at Garnett Patterson.
First year at Garnett
You
Patterson.
was a floating teacher.
I was a floating. I did not have my own classroom, so I was going around.
So you was going. So as you was going around, you was able to interact with some of the students there and some of the people and seeing different things.
I would meet students at a certain classroom, a vacant room.
Right,
If a
right.
teacher had a planning period
Mm-hmm.
and that room was vacant, then a class could be assigned there, and that's where I would meet them.
Right.
And so that was it. I started there, and then the next year I got a classroom 107,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I did for the next 8 years. That's where I held my classes.
So with that, because one of the things that we talk about is education and the transition of our youth. So if you say, well, I found out some of what he was talking about, but what are some of the things that you was able to inherit, and how are some of the things that you was able to transition through working with our kids? Because I'm quite sure a lot of times it wasn't no good days all the time, it wasn't no bad days all the time. But there was some transition of people or kids that really didn't want to be all that you asked them to be, but they became. Because I was based when I was in school, I was real bad. But I had one teacher that I really would listen to. I really would listen to her because I thought she was the nicest person. And she was a no nonsense, but she could also do something with me. And later on in life, I was able to see her, and I always tell her how much I appreciated her. So I'm quite sure that you had some experiences of good times and some bad times, and some times where you can really understand what's going on with us brothers and what's our kids today compared to kids from yesterday. But I really want to talk about the transition from yesterday to today.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I knew as a child growing up in Windsor and going to school in Windsor, the parents always they were hands-on in the schools. They were always in school. So I say, okay, I'm going to have to involve parents with these kids. One day, I was walking through Lee Drop Park.
I also worked there too.
I was in Lee Drop Park,
How's the complex?
and a kid said, Mr. Epps, what you doing around here? I said, as long as you're a student and I'm a teacher, look for me, because I'm going to solicit your parents to assist me with any of these kids. See, and so we had a program at Garnett Patterson called Open Communications, where the parents were hired to be parent partners in the school. So we had a partnership with the parents and the community. Mr. Bennett, who had a barber shop on U Street, Mr. Lee, who had the flower shop.
Yeah.
Those people were part of the group that informed and made suggestions, and sort of we were in partnership with the schools, and that's how we had a measure of success because we had the community members and the parents involved in the school. And so that's a key, a significant key. If you can get caring parents involved with the kids, that's going to make a big difference,
Hey,
a significant difference.
you know, you said a lot. I mean, you really, because a lot of times you may have something that's going on now, but you don't have a lot going on like that.
Exactly.
I heard you say out of everything what I heard you say, that you stepped out of the school, you stepped out your office, and you stepped into the community where your kids go to school at. You went into their community to meet their parents and allow their parents to come to join you as a partnership. I don't know if they still doing a lot of that today.
They do not.
Yeah.
But I started going to the community my very first year when I didn't even have my own classroom. I met my homeroom boys. There was 17 boys in my homeroom class, just all boys.
Mm-hmm.
Another teacher met the girls, 15 girls, upstairs in another room, and they came together. So a homeroom at that time, there were 32 kids in the homeroom. One day, my hat went missing. You know, I had that old stingy brand that I had bought in Lang City. And one of the kids said, "Mr. Epps, I know who has your hat." And this kid lived near 8th and T. So I found my way to his house. This was early on.
Yeah,
You know, I hadn't been to Garnett that long,
yeah.
but I found my way to 8th and T.
And a lot of things was going on around there.
Oh, everything was going on around 8th and T. Not just a lot.
Yeah.
Everything. You know, it was. If it was
Yeah, so I can imagine for a person just coming from out of nowhere, end up in a spot like that, but you know what?
I knocked on the door.
Yeah,
I said, "Ma'am, very respectful. Your son has my hat." I didn't ask her if he had it.
right.
Your son has my hat.
Yeah.
I need to see my hat before I see your son.
Yeah,
That was it. And the hat came to me in a hat box. And that was it.
yeah.
And so from that moment on, I knew that if I got into the community with the parents, everything's possible.
So I'm saying, so you build a relationship.
I'm building a relationship.
But make it so bad. Not only you build a relationship if you have knowledge of what you're doing.
Right.
But we don't understand what you're doing when you come knock on our door.
Tell it like it is.
Yeah. But I can see that. You know what I mean?
All of my babysitters, I have 2 kids. Well, they in their 50s now. But all of my babysitters came from people whom I met in the school. Either some of their older students when they got older, or their parents, or somebody. And so that was it. Never had a problem finding babysitters. Matter of fact, I have gatherings at my house now, and whenever I do, it's packed with old Garnett students, old Norwood students, and that's it. Today.
Yeah, so with you being, I always think Garnett Pass is one of the historical schools.
It is.
Because when I high school, junior high school, they always talk about Garnett Pass. When I elementary, Garnett Pass. Because I come up off of Euclid Street, during the time of past tense and all over, went to Dunbar, past tense. But the point is that I know that you being the person that you are, from talking about what you're talking about now, going into the community, bringing parents together, bringing kids together. I heard a young lady say to me today and say to you, you was one of her best principals in Norwood School.
Right.
And from coming from her, because I know she's a no-nonsense principal,
Exactly.
but coming from her, that spoke very highly of you. But it's also another young lady who spoke very highly of you. She said, well, you need to meet him. You need to talk to him. And that's Miss Yolanda.
Right.
And she was running from Ward 7 Council. But she said, I need to talk to you. And I said, well, who's that? But she said, he used to be the principal of Garnett Pass. I said, I need to talk to him. Because we're talking about our kids today here in the public school system. We're talking about our principals. We're talking about our teachers. We're talking about the relationship between the community and the school. And I know a lot of times within myself going to school, things kind of drift away.
Yes.
Not saying that no teacher is doing that today.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying that we don't have the common relationship as we should have here with the school. I got a youth program, and a lot of times I have to step out my community program to build a relationship with some of the kids' parents, but that's why I've been very successful. And I heard you say that in order for you to do what you was doing, you had to step up out that school, to step into the neighborhood for the kids that you was teaching today.
Absolutely.
So, and my thing is that as we see our kids transition, I always say, it's. Let me ask you this question. If a kid was in your classroom, and he or she that came there with their pants hanging down all week, all year, do you think that's a successful program?
Well, it's just a matter of self-respect and what is being expected of that child at home, and apparently maybe not, but unless you talk with the parent, you don't know whether the parent expects that of the child, or you have kids who change their whole outfit as soon as they get around the corner from the school. The parents don't know they're doing that, but they change their outfit. So the parents might not know that either. You need to talk with the parent and find out. You need to do that, and until you do that, you can't make those kinds of assumptions that this
Right.
kid, this and that. There was an Epps family lived on Florida Avenue right around from the school. And there was an Epps family. This guy, David Epps, was one of the Epps guys. And he said one of the classes that I was teaching, matter of fact, that was one of my original homeroom class. He was in it. And he told them guys, that's my cousin. Nobody better not mess up in here. So,
Right.
he told me that, man, about a couple of years or so ago.
Right.
You see, but he said that's what he said way back in 1964.
Right. So that's saying is somebody was saying something good about you.
Correct.
And had somebody thinking that this was really what's going on.
Exactly.
So that also helped you along the way.
It helped me along the way.
Yeah,
Me along the way because I really didn't know too much about the urban youth.
Yeah.
But I took a class
Yeah.
called Counseling the Urban Youth.
Yeah.
And so I said I need to know something about this child because I didn't know anything about it coming from where my background, et cetera, et cetera. And but I was just always fascinated with these kids because these kids were fascinating
Yes.
to me.
Yeah.
These are outstanding kids. I tell everybody these are the most beautiful kids on the planet. And if you're not fake, and if you love them, all they're going to do is love you back. And so I had a science club after school. The principal at that time, Dr. Mark G. Labatt, one of the most prolific educators that ever walked this earth, came to me and said, Mr. Epps, have you applied for this vacant assistant principalship? I said, no, I'm totally happy teaching.
Yeah.
But anyway, she handed me the application and said, before I left that day, fill it out and give it to her, which I did. And I went home, and I hadn't been home that long, got a phone call. She said, let me be the first one to congratulate you that same evening. And so that was my journey as far as a school administrator was concerned as assistant principal. And I did work as an assistant principal 4 years before I became principal of that very same school. So for 20 years and 2 months, that's where I worked at Garnett Patterson. That was my first 20 years and 2 months.
So with you being the administrator, when you first came to Garnett Patterson, was that on your mind of being more than just a teacher?
No.
So just being a teacher was just where you just wanted to be?
I was happy to have a job.
Right.
I was happy to have a job that you could be your whole career and you could retire. See, so I knew I wanted to be in for 30 years, because you could retire after when you got 55 if you in fact had done 30 years.
Yeah.
But I did take the test for the U.S. government for federal just to see what was happening. But I never heard back from them back in those days.
Most time people don't.
No.
So one of the things that I brought up about our young men, because I'm not a lady, but our young men walking around in school, home with their pants hanging down. I just try to understand what's the demonstration. I'm not even going to get into about no rappers or no actors, and
Right.
I'm talking about our days youth that we talk to, that we be around. How do we help them transition they dress code, their way of living, and like you said, you know, what is expected of them, and how do we transition our kids to look further, deeper into oneself? You know, because we're talking about walking around with your clothes down in front of your grandmother, your mother, your sisters,
Right.
your aunts, your other people, and stuff like that. And I have to say, when kids come down to my son, you know, they can't come down here they can come down here like that, but they can't leave like that.
I understand fully.
You know what I mean?
See, that wasn't even going on when I was
Right.
my whole 30 years.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying.
That wasn't
because
going
of the big transition. There.
That wasn't going on.
Yeah.
That wasn't going on.
Yeah.
But you know, out the media and a lot of other things, they glorify a whole lot of stuff that's not good for our kids.
Right.
They're not good for our kids.
Right.
You know, with pants hanging down, all this kind of thing. But you know, once a year in this city,
Yeah.
folks strip down to their underwear
Yeah.
and run through this city.
Oh,
You see
yeah?
what yeah. You know that, don't you?
Nah, I didn't know that.
They have these a day in the weather's not all that favorable, but they run through this city with their underwear on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I know they run around with the high heels on. I know that.
No, but they do that. But there's another day.
Oh.
There's another day.
They have it on TV?
Yes, they do. And all the news channels run it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Where they're running around with their underclothes, just underclothes on. Look it up. Check it out. And I say, okay, but a lot of, you don't see, I don't recall seeing any black folks doing it.
Right, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to really.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But our kids need to understand that a lot of things that as a race that we do, you know, that other folks do, we might not be able to get away with it. See, and it's not good for us.
Right.
You know, I'm not a racist. You know, matter of fact, when I was growing up, some white folks were some of the biggest supporters of my family, the Epps family. So you see what I'm saying? But everything is not good for you, and so we need to be able to. It's a mind thing. It's a mind thing. Sometimes I don't think these kids really know exactly what it is that they're doing, but some kind of way we're going to have to try to change that.
And so this is what I'm saying.
Right.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So what do you think about the marijuana situation of our young folks smoking marijuana, who that's engaged in marijuana? I mean, what do you think that? Because everywhere you go, you smell it.
Exactly.
Everywhere you go, you
Exactly.
know, and don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Bureau. I also used to do that too when I was younger, but I haven't done it in 31 years.
I understand.
You know what I mean? Because I thought that was the way.
Okay.
So my thing is that buying it, because it wasn't legal during the time, but I thought it was legal when I was doing it. But now it's legal.
Right.
And I'm just seeing how it has been affecting a lot of our kids today, more so today than it was yesterday.
Absolutely. You know, it was definitely illegal, and a lot of young folks who were incarcerated because of their association with marijuana. And so, but marijuana has become a very lucrative enterprise for this country. So has gambling, you see. And so this is a capitalistic country, and I think that the money drives a lot of things that take place in this country. Drugs, gambling, and et cetera. Now, there are some medicinal qualities as a science person. There are some medicinal helpful qualities about marijuana. And so it has transitioned now into, you know, just recreational and whatever it is. And so I'm not against people smoking herb. I'm not. And but I do know one thing, that it doesn't do our young folks any good to be participating in it.
And that's basically what I'm saying.
Right.
And I can't speak for all young folks.
Right.
And I really can't speak for no young folks, basically.
Right.
But what I know, there's a transition.
Right.
Within my own son.
I understand.
So, you know what I'm saying, within my own grandson. So I can speak about them. But I'm just saying there is a transition that's being done. And one of my things about I have a youth program, and my youth program is called United Our Youth. But my motto is the child you save may be your own.
Absolutely.
But I can't save my own son, but I'll help other people's son.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When I was principal at Noyes Elementary School, okay, because I went to Noyes in 1986. I left Garnett in 84. In 1984, the D.C. government had gotten about $40 million from the federal government to do something about the educational program at for the Department of Corrections, the entire Department of Corrections.
Right.
So, the mayor for life, Marion Barry, asked Margaret G. Labatt, who was the principal, who, after my teaching there 9 years at Garnett, asked me about becoming an assistant principal. So at that time, in 1984, she was one of the regional superintendents in this city. The mayor, Barry, asked her to take a leave of absence to develop this educational program for the Department of Corrections. She asked me to take a leave of absence as principal at Garnett Patterson, go with her as her deputy assistant director for educational services. And that's what I did November 1984. And so the 7 programs down at Lorton and the DC jail, we established educational programs. Maximum, Central, Occoquan 1 and 2, Minimum, Medium, Youth Center 1 and 2, all down at Lorton and the DC jail. And so that's what we did, a program called Second Chances.
Right. I heard about that.
And yes, and at the end of June of '86, that's when I came back. That's when I came back to the DC public school system, and that's when I went to Noyes Elementary School as its principal.
So 1984 was a turning point in my life.
Okay.
A turning point in my life. I got shot
Okay.
up on 11th and O.
11th and O.
Yeah, 10th and O Street. Got shot 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Out there in the world.
Okay.
But prior, before I got shot, my commission was supposed to be going with my grandmother for Thanksgiving to Atlantic City. Be my first time, me and my grandmother just going, and I didn't show up. Through God's grace, divine intervention, I'm here today.
Absolutely.
When I woke up, my mother said she was, the parents speak, my mother was curse all the time. She said she was going to whoop me soon I wake up. And I kind of heard her voice. But I just reflected back on 1984, what I was doing compared to what she was doing.
Yeah.
And from that time, our transition, my transition was that education was never an issue for me. But what became an issue for me, that I didn't want to sit still long enough to get the education.
I understand.
Yeah.
When I would see some guys who had gone to Garnett down at Lorton, and we talked. We would definitely talk. Matter of fact, before I even set up shop down there in Lorton, we had an office building outside of Occoquan. Before we set up shop down there, I was given the task of going to maximum security. That was the first time I had ever been to Lorton. I went to maximum security, and I saw one of my former students down there. They had him all shackled up and everything. Mr. Epps, look at me, how they doing? And they were saying that he was a deranged, violent individual, and he was in that lockdown program. Where you get a half hour out in the yard by yourself.
Yeah.
So I told them I'd like to go and speak with him myself, and so they say, what? This man is,
Yeah.
I said, no. I used to tell folks, those guys in particular, they did a lot of bad things, but they were respectful.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
They respected their elders.
Right.
They respected their ladies.
Right.
There was no jacking up ladies.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about with how young folks are today.
It's
very not as respectful as they can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the difference. That's the difference. And it all goes all the way back, I believe, to what's going on in the house.
Right.
You know, what's going on in the house.
I'm a straight believer that.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about when you see. I don't want to forget too. I also used to work at DC public school system,
Okay.
and I wasn't the best worker in DC public school system, but my best friend used to be the superintendent of school, Floretta McKenzie. She saved me for many years.
Floretta Dukes McKenzie.
Yes, she saved me for many. I used to leave from Kramer or whatever school that I was working at, and I could just come in the presidential building and walk all the way up to her office myself. I was young, but I was more than, you know what I mean?
I understand.
I was able to build a relationship
I understand.
with her, you know, and again, one more time, education was really never my problem.
I understand.
My problem was sitting still to
Right.
get the education.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
So that lets you know that I was a little ahead of my time because
Yeah.
everybody just couldn't go up to the superintendent.
No,
Yeah.
no, you just couldn't
Yeah.
go up to the superintendent's
Yeah.
office. I recall one day I was in the hall at Garnett Pass, and she came in and she said, "Mr. Epps, I see why nobody really wants to leave here because if the environment was conducive for teaching and learning."
Yes.
See, and I used to call, in the beginning of the year, but throughout the year, I was always called a full building assembly at least once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was there, staff, kids, parents, whoever, and I should speak with them. And I remember this one particular year, I didn't call it an assembly until October,
Mm-hmm.
okay, mid-September, called it in October. And when in the assembly, I told the young people, I said, listen, I want to apologize to you for not having been interacting with you
Right.
the all of September. I said, but all of September, I've been making sure that the atmosphere is as it should be for teaching and learning.
Mm-hmm.
I've been dealing with any kind of challenges or obstacles that might prevent you from having a full day's instructional program. But now that's in place. And see, that's how schools, you know, you need to be sure that the building is right for so that kids can be that time on task thing. And that's why the scores are low. The scores are low. The kids not coming, you know, because the atmosphere is just not right. Kids can't go home and walking through the streets without something happening to them.
Right.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But my brother, I had a brother who was fully engaged in criminal activities up in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother used to say, wow, long as I don't hear from him, that's good news. Huh? Huh? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Huh? No news is good news?
Yeah.
Because you knew if he was on the other end,
Yeah.
it was something going down.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And so I came to know about the tombs and all
Yeah.
that other kind of stuff
Yeah.
because of my brother's experiences.
Right.
And
You didn't want that to be your experience.
no, indeed.
Yeah.
And he brought that to DC.
Yeah.
He brought that. What he
Same
was doing.
behavior.
He brought it to DC.
Yeah, okay.
But before he died, he had turned himself around, and he actually was working in some of those drug counseling
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
And so that was a good thing. So I used to tell his parents, when I was over at Noah's one day, when I was principal, a parent came in the back, you know, she had the telltale signs of smoking a joint, because the fingers were brown, you know. And I said, you smoke a little herb. You know, she said, no, Mr. Epps, no, Mr. Epps. I said, I'm not the police now. I'm not the police.
Yeah, that's the identification when you got your little brown fingers.
I just hope you're not smoking around your kids.
Yeah.
Because they inhale the stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be.
And that's what's happening.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And
They're
that's
doing
what's
it right
happening.
around the kids.
I wasn't trying to talk negative about
No.
her or her smoking herb.
Right.
But it's what we do around kids.
It affects our kids later on. It's just why a lot of our kids is in so much trauma today.
Exactly.
Because they are able to be around folks who's constantly with the smoke in the air, with the alcohol in the air, with the
Exactly.
cursing in the air.
Exactly.
If, it's not that the parent is trying to do this on purpose.
Right.
They're just not being focused and paying attention
That's all.
about how detrimental it is that
That's it.
affect our kids
Absolutely.
as they come up today or tomorrow.
That's correct.
And we end up with some of our parents hanging down.
Right.
We end up with these attitudes. We end up with these emotional trauma. We end up with these things where I don't want to listen to you because you ain't my daddy. But most of the time, you get to the point where they don't want to listen to you if you is the daddy.
No question about it.
You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So what I had to understand is that sometimes we say we have to meet a kid where sometimes we can't meet them always where they at.
No.
Because they're not trying to meet you where you at.
Exactly.
You know,
Where they're at, the line moves.
Yeah.
You don't know where they are.
Right.
You say, okay, I'll meet you here, but by the
Right.
time you show up there, they're here.
Right.
Or here.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the line moves.
Yeah, so I was wondering, because I'm also into dealing with youth and dealing with the community, and I always try to figure out which way the best way to deal with, our kids. One of the things that, like I said, I got a youth program, and I'm teaching my young kids at an early age, at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I'm teaching them IT, which normally IT would be generated for somebody that's 18 to 24 on up. But I'm getting the introduction of what it is to have a career, what it is to have some type of knowledge, whatever to think as a team player, how to work along, work with each other, whether it's male or female. These are the things that United Our Youth is doing with the kids today here in this community in Langston. But at the same token, a lot of times we got to step our kids into a more of an educational process at a young age. Why? Because sometimes if they get to a certain age, they don't really have time. You know what I mean? But I thank God for the summer youth program is about to start, and a lot of our kids are able to get summer youth jobs. But it's a whole lot of kids that don't even apply for summer jobs.
Correct.
They don't even, and each year this happens, you almost get the same kids who don't even finish the process. But not only that, a lot of times our parents don't even tell the kids to even apply for a job. You know what they be saying now? Do you want to work a summer job?
Right.
Do you want a job? Do you want to go to camp?
I used to shine shoes. I had my shoe shine box.
Yeah.
When I used to shine shoes, and that was, like I said, I was born in 1940, so around about, I don't know, about 12 or so, I was shining shoes in the alley between the theater, Palace Theater, and the little ice cream shop for the white kids. I was shining shoes. I still have my shoe shine box, and I used to deliver newspaper on Wednesdays, came out once a week. Used to do the special delivery boy. I used to, before I went to school, go sweep out the lobby of the post office, hang the flag, any special deliveries, deliver them before I went to school, and then after school, doing the same thing. And so these kids, their work ethics are messed up, but it's not necessarily their total fault. Back in the day, when they had career programs all over this city and in schools, because when I first went to Garnett, they had a wood shop, a print shop, mechanical drawing, cooking, sewing.
And that was in middle school, right?
That was yeah.
Yeah.
They
That
had-
was in junior high school.
They had music and art. We used to do these original performances.
Yeah.
Original performance. Kids perform all over the Capitol Hill. They did a thing with Mr. T. When they were doing the movie St. Elmo's Fire, they were shooting up in that Adams Morgan area. Some of the staff and students went up there to be extras and all this kind of stuff. So it's a matter of exposing kids to things. But a lot of the kids who's on the corners now, that trigonometry and geometry and calculus, they're not into that. And even if you took it and be successful with it, the odds that you're going to ever use it in life are very slim. And so you got to have these things that these kids feel like they can do. They had all kinds of career programs back then. The kids who not going to college, there was something they could come out of those schools and they were ready to go to work and perform. And so it's not the kids' fault. It's sometimes it's the adults, whether it's the parents or whether it's the people in charge of the government programs or the schools or this and that. But you know, if a little child is born, if this little child was raised from, say, moved from Anacostia to Moscow, the child would be speaking Russian.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the child was moved to somewhere in Germany, he'd be speaking fluent German.
Mm-hmm.
See, so these kids, you know, for the most part, will
They're being
become
what they taught.
will become for the most part what they're being taught and what their environment is presenting to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't always blame these totally kids, but you know, if certain things out here if you're doing, you need to be punished for it, because that's a deterrent, I believe.
So within that, you're saying that, let's move up to where we are today. You know, if you had opportunity to be on the advisory board,
Right.
whether it was the mayor's office, city council office, or even the president, what good news would you have to bring as far as when it comes down to the education and uplifting our young brothers and sisters here in the United States or here in Washington, D.C.?
I would tell the monumental folks who the mayor has pledged $500 million. I would tell them, I'm gonna give you $250 million. The other $250, I'm gonna put in these schools. All schools need an art program. All schools need a music program. They need that. They need it. And there will be some type of hands-on stuff that they're gonna do in these schools. You know, for an example, computer science.
Mm-hmm.
When I retired in 1995,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so then in 2003, a friend of mine, George Rutherford, who at one point in time was principal at Fletcher Johnson, he had retired. And then he became principal of a charter school. And I saw him at a function. He said, man, you know, I need somebody to come in there and sort of develop a little technology program for me. He said, will you do that for me? I said, part-time. I can do it part-time. And so I didn't know anything about computers,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew I'd need to find out something about them. And it got to the point, there was a program called Computers for Learning,
Mm-hmm.
where these government agencies will give you this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it got to the point one time where the Library of Congress
Mm-hmm.
donated to the school
Mm-hmm.
based on this program that I had gotten involved with. We were able to go out there on Bright Seat Road where they have a warehouse, and we got enough computers. I'm talking about the keyboard, the
Right.
monitors, everything that's needed. Beginning with the preschool class,
Mm-hmm.
that every classroom had at least 4 computers.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my task. And I made sure that every classroom had at least 4 computers
Mm-hmm.
or more. And that was it,
Right,
you know, because these kids need to be computer literate.
right.
And so that was it. But I would take some of that $500 million and I would invest it in these schools.
So I heard you say something now, as we've got a listener might be coming past. They might have heard you say, well, they should take 250,000 or million, whatever, from Monumental.
Yeah.
So,
Tell the honest,
So-
he's sitting on a bunch of money.
so who is Monumental? Because somebody may not know who that is.
Who is that?
You know they.
Oh, Monumental?
Yeah, because they heard you say that.
Oh, yeah, well-
And then you say you spent the money over into education.
Right.
So they might not know who that is.
Well, they're the Wizards.
Okay.
You know, they're the
basketball franchise.
the basketball franchise, the latest,
ice hockey.
the ice hockey.
Capitals.
That's right, the field hockey, you know.
The
all that.
basketball team for the ladies.
The absolute, all of that. That's Monumental Sports.
Okay.
That's Monumental Sports.
Okay,
That's right. That's
okay.
Monumental Sports.
Yes. Okay. So.
And he wanted 5. The mayor said she wanted to give him $500 million.
So you asked for you asked for so much of them also being a partnership with the educational program, just as well as to have the profit go over here, half go over there.
Well, Monumental Sport doesn't necessarily have to be a part of the educational program, but certainly as a big player in this city, it ought to be.
That's why I asked.
It
That's
ought
why I
to-
asked the question.
It ought to be.
You know, and I said that they are not.
Right.
Let's make that. Let's say that they're not.
Right.
But we're just talking about if you was that person that was
Yes.
on the advisory board.
Exactly.
What would you like? You know,
Exactly.
I just want to make that clear for people can understand.
Now, the mayor said, listen, okay, that Monumental Sports You know, that's a good place to put that 500 million
Yeah.
because they're going to generate a lot of money for the city.
Right.
But I said, okay, but how much does it cost the city if these kids are in disarray?
Right.
It's going to cost more than 500 million. It's going to cost more than that. And so I said, let's do something on the front end.
Yeah. So we're fair saying that, and I'm an advocate for you and for myself and for kids and maybe for the mayor. Because right now they have like a spring on.
Right.
They can really open up an infrastructure
Absolutely.
program there.
Yes.
So that's a start.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But they also have different training schools and trade schools for kids to go to under the Department of Unemployment Services for kids that come from 18 to 24.
Absolutely.
But they also got different programs for people that's over a certain age who want to get their career training. So they got more career training that's opened up
Right.
here in the District of Columbia more so than they had in a long time. So with that, I'm always a kid come to me that live with his parents who not working, but live with their parents for a long time. And they decide, look, Mr. Miles, I want to try to get in the program. I want to try. So I said, well, why don't you go ahead and get in this trade school or this training school where you can get certified? Because you already live with your mother. You ain't really got to pay that much. You feel what I'm saying? And so I know you was talking about your transition from South Carolina. Was South Carolina?
North
Carolina.
Right.
And to Atlantic City because you
Yes.
used to go there. And how did that end up happening? We're going to close out very shortly, but I just want you to give us a little synopsis on that, and then you can give us a last final word that if somebody needs some type of information, some type of advice, that can carry them for the rest of the part of however,
Yes.
that you can do that too, Mr. Epps.
Well, Jimmy Gillum, Mr. Jimmy Gillum, who was my business teacher at W.S. Edwards High School there in Windsor, North Carolina, his family owned the funeral home business, and but they also owned property in Langley City, and they had a sister named Catherine, and Catherine ran a rooming house in Atlantic City. All the young ladies who went from Windsor to Atlantic City, they went from Windsor to the Catherine house, okay? So they had a safe place where they could stay, and because it was a rooming house, people would come there, rent rooms overnight or over the week or whatever, and so the young ladies knew they could work there until they could stay there, work there until they could find some more employment in other parts of the city themselves. But that was a place. So, but it was always Lancaster was a place where if you leave in Windsor and you go to Lancaster City, you had some connections.
Yeah.
You had some connections. As a matter of fact, one of the older guys was there, and I had gotten there, and after about the second day there, he came to me and said, I found you a job at this restaurant on the boardwalk, Hollis Restaurant, right there by the Hotel Trademore at Tennessee and the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And so that was a connection.
Okay.
And it was a safe place. It was a safe house.
Yeah. Yeah, my uncle worked at Lou's Restaurant for 40-something years up in Atlantic City.
Okay.
Again, one more time, we want to thank you, Mr. Elks. I want to thank Yolanda
Yes.
for sending you my way. You know what I mean?
Well,
and I also want to thank Stephanie Lyons
Yes.
for giving me the second half of what was back in the day. You know, and I want to thank you for the day for coming here with Clarence Miles in the community. We couldn't have did it today without you. You know, education is a key product for all of us. You know, but we just want to pray that our young kids and older kids get it right. You know, this is a platform where we may not always been where we at, but today we going where we going.
That's
Just
right.
moving forward.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We're not looking back.
No.
So I don't thank everybody for coming to Clarence Miles and community. And we'd like to, if somebody needs some information on you, you have any information that you would like to give, phone them or yourself or email or whatever that you have.
Well, my cell phone number is 202-957-0648. My email address is epscharles7@gmail.com. And by the way, the Sumner School at 17th and M Street is now a museum and archives for DC Public Schools. Okay,
That's 17th and M, we're northwest, southwest?
Northwest.
Okay.
It's at the Charles Sumner School. Okay, and my portrait hangs there.
Okay.
And some portraits of
Okay.
people from around the cities, from schools way back when.
Cool.
So you can always go up there and check out things. But those two bits of information that I just gave you, feel free to.
And we're going to give our shout out to Garnett Patterson,
Yes.
old students and new students.
Absolutely.
And when you see Mr. Elks in the street, just tell him, I seen your show and we appreciate you.
I thank you.
Appreciate
I thank you. I
for
thank
what you
you.
have done for DC Public School
I
System.
thank you. I thank you.
sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.